Good morning, everybody. Welcome into an early edition of the Spotlight Omaha podcast, where we take you around the city of Omaha, introduce you to local business owners, influential figures, and people who are making an impact on our community. We are brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing. Pixel Fire Marketing is a locally owned marketing firm who specializes in website design, creating social media ads, and engaging your business online. If you can benefit from any of that, check out pixelfiremarketing.com. We're coming to you live from the Pyramid Contractor Studio today with Derek Richards, the owner of Cunningham's Pub. Thanks for being here, buddy. We appreciate it.
Of course.
I've only tried getting you in 46 times now, so I appreciate you making time for us.
It's been an interesting couple months.
And it has for several people and several business owners. I'm not sure what's happening with our TV here. When we talk about the restaurant industry, and obviously we're coming off of this big, I don't know if you heard about this, there was this global wide pandemic that happened that kind of pivoted the industry.
I vaguely recall.
How did COVID and the pandemic affect how Cunningham's operates, and what do you guys are still using from that time period today that's working for you?
Well, I would say that, of course, the biggest effect was that we didn't have any customers in-house for a very long time. It took basically a year to kind of recover and get back. And then the staffing was a huge issue for, I think, every restaurant, even to this day, is still affected by staffing shortages. And I don't know, it's just been an interesting time to get people to come back to work. And I feel like we're moving past all of those like hurdles that kind of went down during 2020. Are kind of getting in the rearview mirror. So it's wonderful to see. Yeah, right. Like we're up to where we're staffed again. And talked to a lot of people that it was for a long time where you talked to people and everybody was talking about how they didn't have employees. And now the biggest factor is the cost of our ingredients
Inflation sucks for everybody.
It's a deal.
You have a unique experience because obviously your mom and dad purchased the bar and you've been running it for 14 years. When we talk about the bar industry and the way it changes and just overseeing, because you guys have two locations now too. If we're talking about the day in, day out running of a business, especially one in the hospitality industry, how do you deal with a different face through the door almost every single day?
Well, I mean, it's a big part of it is just being consistent and knowing what it is exactly that you want to do. And it can, and that will, and not being so bullheaded that you don't change what you want to do. Like you can start a restaurant or whatever and have this idea of this is exactly what we're going to be. Mm-hmm. And then find out that that's not working and you have to be able to pivot. But you have to have some sort of identity. And with like Cunningham's, we kind of went back and forth on a few things, but I always knew at the end of the day, I was like, we just want to have really good food. And that's our big push. Give people a good environment to come in, eat, have a cocktail and watch a sporting event. And that was kind of always our identity. And it's really just what we've grown the business around. So I think dealing with different people, as long as the people that come in, the different faces you see, don't experience something different every time they come in. So if you've got one customer experiencing one thing and another one experiencing another thing, they think you're two different businesses.
Good point.
So you just want to have this is what we do. And when you come in, this is what you can expect kind of thing.
You mentioned the word identity and keeping things the same. What would you say the identity of Cunningham's Pub is? Like, how do you want customers to view the identity of Cunningham's?
I want people to identify with us as a casual place where you can come in and enjoy great food. One of the things, and I love, like I'm a big craft beer fan. When I went to culinary school, I had graduated from there, and I kind of really had some bad experiences with like high-end fine dining. And it was like, wow, our food's really good, but it's also like you can kind of get a vibe like maybe
uppity.
Yeah, like It's kind of like you're going there to enjoy this great food, but you can't really relax either and enjoy it, And
make sure your pinky's out while you're drinking your craft beer.
Yeah, that's right. And then like the wine drinkers, like we like nothing against wine drinkers. Love you guys, but some people take it to an extreme. Sure. And I love beer because it's flavor. Like craft beer is great because you get all these different flavors and it's more chill.
It's a little more unique.
Yeah, there's the flavor profiles around beer are just insane. So that's what I like about Cunningham's is you can come in, eat some great food, and have a more chill environment.
When you have the culinary background you have, and you have this creative canvas essentially to paint with when you own a bar, and you guys have two very large locations, how much thought process went into the way you guys designed your menu? And because it's very simple, it's very to the point, but it gives you a lot of options. Was that by design? Did you guys do that yourself? How did you guys formulate the menu?
Well, so when we originally started Cunningham's, we had taken over another business and converted it into Cunningham's, and they kind of had two identities, which was very confusing.
Sure.
And we had started off with some different guys running the kitchen, and we had like 80 menu items, and it was all over the place. And I'm like, this is not fit what we're trying to go with. And a lot of it boils down to just cost effective, being able to use the ingredients you need, but you can't just use them once, and then making the things that you have taste good, and not just trying to throw as much stuff on the menu as you can and hope that somebody likes some of the items.
That's a good point.
I mean, most people, when they go in and look at a menu, they only look at it for a few seconds, and then that's it. So if you've got 90 menu items, I mean, I go into those places that have like the books where you're like, there's like 10 pages of menu items. I get tuned out, and I'm like, I'm just going to take this one thing. Like, I found this.
Why do you hate the Cheesecake Factory? No, I'm just kidding.
They have great daiquiris there.
I agree.
From what I haven't been into Cheesecake Factory in like probably 15 years. But
when you have this overall umbrella over a business, but it is food and it is alcohol, in most cases they are very separate entities in the way the business functions. How do you deter where your focus goes, to the alcohol sales, to the food sales, and how do you manage both?
So we when we originally started, we had live entertainment. We were open till 1 o'clock in the morning, and you literally had two different crowds. You had the guys coming in, eating, drinking, families doing their thing. We had the business people coming in at lunch. And then literally like an hour before a show would start, it was a whole different crowd came in.
Yeah.
And they didn't know anything about the people that had been in there since 11 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
And they didn't care. And I actually had a conversation with a gal that sang with a local band, and they got there to set up, and we were packed. It was dinner service. And her and her husband sat down, they ate, and we were talking about food, and she enjoyed our menu. And she just looked at me and she's like, "Why are we here?"
Yeah.
And that was like a huge, that question was in my mind I'm like, why are they here? Because basically when the band would start tuning up, everybody that was there to eat and have a beer and hang out
would leave.
They would cash out and just walk out the door. And then we would hope to refill the place. And I'm like, this is confusing. This is not an identity. We're like lost here. So that was like, that really got the wheels turning. And when the city of Omaha, when they switched the 2 o'clock closure
From 1 to 2.
Yeah, everybody's like, well, you got to be open till 2 now. I was like, no, we're going to close at 11.
Nice.
And we just went the opposite way. And we're like, we don't need.
Ever regret it?
Not particularly.
Okay.
No, we put so much emphasis in our early marketing on lunch, happy hour, and dinner that we had built those to where we didn't necessarily need the 11 to 2 o'clock crowd to supplement that income.
We were talking about identity, and would it be fair to say that you look at Cunningham's more as a restaurant that just happens to sell alcohol at it? Then is that fair?
Yeah, I think so. Our food sales eclipsed our alcohol sales, I would say probably 3 years in, and that was just fine. We ran the split on food and alcohol was where we wanted to be. The food paid for all the kitchen personnel. We made money on it, and then the alcohol sales are icing on the cake.
Sure.
So you had one kind of pushing the other instead of the alcohol driving our business. It was the food driving our business. And as I've gotten older, I mean, my habits have changed. I don't stay out. When we go out, it's
all by 10:30.
Yeah, like it's like 10:30.
Same.
My wife just read this thing the other day about things that made you hungover, and it was like in your 20s drinking, 30s drinking, 40s going to bed late.
Yeah, right.
Not getting enough sleep, getting too much sleep. I'm like, this is where we are.
I woke up the other day and my knee hurt from sleeping. That's welcome to being 36.
The wrong position in your neck is messed up.
Ruins your week. Yeah.
That's sad.
We're catching up with Derek Richards here from Cunningham's Pub on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside of the Pyramid Contractors Studios. If we take inflation out of it, and obviously that's the big one, what are the biggest hurdles facing the bar industry right now?
Well, it's hard. Inflation is just such a negative.
Yeah.
It's hard to pull that out of the equation.
Sure.
Because things are expensive. Mm-hmm. And so, if you pull that out, I would say consistency of product, even from our vendors, is a challenge. Like, we sell a lot of chicken wings, and you've got like,
it is a wing and whiskey Wednesday.
Yeah, there you go. And so when you've got like the packing plants and everything, when they're short staffed or they have a shortage of product, whatever the case may be, they're sourcing from wherever they can get the product so that you can at least have it. So when you go from like a 40-pound case of like chicken wings having 250 wings in it, and then the next week they're like the size of a chicken leg, and you drop that to 170 wings, it's really like stuff like that can be a huge challenge because your margins just get thrown out of whack. Like I would say that's one big thing. Even we had silly stuff like last summer where we couldn't get the same onion rings on a consistent basis. And I'm like, what is the deal with, like, where are the onions at?
Sure.
And there's been some things with between hurricanes and late freezes and stuff like that where your produce is wonky. Yeah, tornadoes. So I think that for a while there was a big problem with just things getting shipped around the country. Mm-hmm. And I think we've got so accustomed to, like, you can get whatever you want whenever you want it. And then when you run into a problem like that, it's like
giant wrench.
This is weird, So that took a little bit. That's been an interesting hurdle.
You guys, I mentioned at the start of the podcast, you guys have recently branched out and opened a second location in Blackstone. What was it about the Blackstone area that made you guys decide to pull the trigger and open that second location?
So my wife and I, before we got married, my wife lived 1 block away from Blackstone, and I had. When I was younger, in my 20s, we hung out in that area
a few years ago.
Yeah, just yesterday. And then when we got married, we bought a house and we lived on that side of town. And they like literally the week we got married, all of the Blackstone stuff started turning around, and we're like, this is so cool,
It is. It is such a cool neighborhood,
and we love the area, and we always have. We moved once we had kids. We're like, we need some space. Mm-hmm. As soon as we had our first son, and then we're gonna have our second son. We're like, they're boys. They need to roam.
Yeah.
So like when this opportunity came up and with the Blackstone location, we just kind of jumped on it. We're like, we would love to be in that area. We always enjoyed it. So yeah, we just. It kind of came out of the blue, really.
I have to ask, because obviously when we look at the different, and we were just having this conversation with somebody else in the studio about the boroughs of Omaha and how, like, there's obviously different parts. There's the Benson area, there's the Little Italy, there's Gretna, there's the Outlet Mall, whatever it may be. But when you look at the Blackstone district, there are some other very reputable bars in that area. Any part of that make you a little bit nervous about the venture, or is that more of we can be different and be kind of a draw to this area?
So that was kind of when we talked to the guys that are developing that area, that was kind of the thought process, is that we are going to bring. So we've got a nightlife. We kind of, like, you can check that box off in Blackstone. Like, there's a great nightlife down there, and what they're trying to do now is bring in more of a lunch and dinner crowd. So like people like my age in their 40s that want to go out early, have some drink, have some dinner, have a couple cocktails, and call it a night. And then later on, you've got the younger crowd coming in, and that's what they're really pushing for. And that's why we felt like we fit in that niche, is just kind of add to that. And they're bringing in a couple other restaurants, so that area is just getting started.
Yeah, it's not anywhere near its peak yet. You mentioned that it's you want your employees to have a good work-life balance. You guys want to be this, place where somebody can come get dinner and a cocktail and call it a night early. You're not open on Mondays at the Blackstone area. What was the thought process behind that and why?
Well, it's just this is something that happened during the COVID years is we didn't have staff. So
Sure.
we were like, well, we can't be open on this day. We're not doing enough sales to support it anyway. So we just closed one day a week. And then as we kind of recouped and got going again, we're like, well, it's kind of nice to not have any phone calls.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as a business owner, like, I don't know about other entrepreneurs, but I feel like typically if I get a random phone call during the day or evening,
It's not good.
it's not like, hey, Derek, everything's great.
We're
man.
calling
I
to let
just
you know
wanted to
we
call."
really love our job.
Yeah, and things are smooth sailing.
Thanks
and
for all
it's
you do.
awesome. So like that call just is not real. So like it was nice to have like a Monday where there were no calls.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing that could happen.
You could do this.
But weirdly enough, even with being closed, I still get phone calls because random things happen.
Sure.
And it blows my mind. I'm like, why are these people calling me? And it's like, there's not even anybody in the building.
If you want to be a business owner, you better make sure your phone bill's up to date.
Yeah, right. The cell phone.
You're somebody that likes having hobbies. We've talked about your love for craft beer and the fact that you are very much into the culinary arts. I don't know why that keeps happening. That's very weird. But you obviously are very involved in woodworking too. Where does that passion come from, and how did you get into it?
So the woodworking thing was kind of I had to basically.
Okay.
It was born from necessity. So a few years back, I want to say like probably 9 years ago, everybody was getting into that like reclaimed lumber look,
Yeah.
and we really liked it. We had these just kind of black laminated tabletops like everybody else had.
Okay.
And I just was like, and we needed to change them out anyway. So I started talking to a few guys about making some tables for us, and it was just outrageous. I'm like, we're not going to spend, $16,000 or whatever the number was to get some new tables in here. And we do have a larger business, so we were talking like 40 tabletops.
Right.
And so I got to looking at it, and YouTube, you can learn whatever you want to learn, So I started looking up how to make a tabletop, and I'm like, well, I could do that.
Yeah.
And for a fraction,
You always been pretty handy.
well, kind of.
Okay.
I mean, I would say I'm fairly quick to pick up new things.
Sure.
Like just random things.
I'm not. That's why I asked.
Working with my hands, I would say.
I did not make this. This is courtesy of Nebraska Furniture Mart.
If the like visual learner thing, that is definitely me. If you set me down and show me how to do something, I'll
I'm the
probably
same way.
figure it out. But no, I was like, we could spend X amount of money on some tools, and I could just make all these, and then we'll have the tools for other stuff.
That's a good point.
And then I just really enjoyed it, and it kind of went into other things that we do at Cunningham's, and we've used the tools and those new skills to do other stuff.
I have to ask. I haven't known you guys that long, but Leah comes off as to me as somebody that doesn't mind telling you when you're wrong. What was her thought process when you bought the tools and told her you were going to do this?
Well, that was pretty early on in our relationship.
Okay.
So she was kind of like, the first time I made a whole bunch of sawdust and mess, she was
thrilled.
That was when and like our old house is about 100 years old,
Sure.
and
In that district, it would have to be.
we had a detached garage, which the only breaker in there, I couldn't power any of the power tools we just bought. So I had a 100-foot extension cord running from my
Naturally.
kitchen out there. So she was not overly enthusiastic
Sure.
about that part of it. And then if I was running too much stuff at one time, like the lights in the kitchen would just shut off.
Yeah.
It blow a break. So she didn't particularly
love it.
like that. But we figured it out. We got through
That's
that.
funny. We're catching up with Derek Richards here of Cunningham's Pub on the Spotlight Omaha podcast, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing and the Pyramid Contractors Studio. If we're talking 5-10 years down the road, as far as locations, have we seen the final growth of Cunningham's? Is there talk of a third location? What does growth look like for you guys?
So we are talking about doing a third location at some point here. It's when you start stuff like this, you always, in your mind, it's going to be like, we already know we have all the processes in place.
Yeah.
Like it's not really that big of a deal. And then once you start, you're like, well,
This is a huge deal.
even though you've done this before, it's like kind of forgot about this part, kind of forgot about that part. And like that was another interesting thing with like our build out. Like that was like trying to find, because it was a remodel, so it's not a big job, and all these construction guys are like, they're like, we're doing new construction, so to come in and build this little thing for you is not a priority.
Yeah.
So some of those things were like,
Because it's probably not easy either.
It honestly, for a lot of the guys, it's just as easy to build an entire building than it is to come in for a day and just do like one
Fix
wall.
something that's 100 years old.
Yeah, like why wouldn't we just do this new construction where everything's going to be to code and I know exactly what I'm getting into? So little hiccups like that, it's great to learn about, and then some of the processes you do. So I think once we get comfortable at Blackstone, we'll probably start considering doing another one.
What are the two biggest differences between, for you? Obviously, there's the buildings, different locations are different. For you, what is the biggest difference between the Old Mill Road and the Blackstone locations?
Well, it's kind of relearning the people getting to know you process.
That's a good point.
Like you always think, like it blows my mind. We've been in operation for 14 years, and I run into people all the time in Blackstone that have never heard of Cunningham's, and I'm like, how have you never heard of us? We've been on the radio. We've done ads.
Oh, you guys do radio ads? That's cool. People should do more radio ads.
Only with the finest advertisers in Omaha.
Good call.
But no, and it's like, what? Like we years ago we did a TV spot. We've got Facebook with thousands, and I'm like, huh? Like, you know, you just kind of get accustomed to like thinking that people, and Omaha's not like a massive city, so you just kind of think about. But then it causes me to reflect, and I look at every time I drive by a restaurant, and I think, well, that's new. And then you find out they've been in operation
for 10 years.
Yeah, and it's like, well, actually, you just haven't been paying attention.
Well, and also, I've told you this, and it's not because you're sitting here. I've had hundreds of people invite me to business meetings at Cunningham's, and I think that's just a testimonial to how well you guys handle the like you said earlier, the lunch to happy hour time frame, and kind of make that your guys' specialty, because it draws people in that are trying to have meetings. They know they can come sit down. It's not going to be a raucous bar crowd. They're going to get good food. It's going to be a good experience, and they're going to be able to conduct whatever type of business that they need to do. I do have to apologize. My friends were going to come in and do a Center Sphere event at your bar today, and then one of them got sick and they got to reschedule on you guys. So I'm sorry for that, but it's just one of those things that it's a place where you can kind of get everything you're looking for. You can get a great cocktail, you can get craft beer, you can have a business meeting, you can host an event. Is that kind of what you guys were looking for? How do we put this all-encompassing place together where we can satisfy the needs of multiple people all at the same time?
So my work history, I have done a rather large variety of different jobs, from day labor to working at high-end restaurants as a service staff, bartender, that type of thing. So I've encountered a lot of people.
Sure.
And a lot of...
Be hard not to.
I mean, the thing that always got me was the blue-collar and the white-collar workers, and the guy out there working, we have a lot of things in common. Mm-hmm. And I always one of the things I love about Cunningham's is you'll have a bunch of people in from an office that are out there talking shop about, and then you get a bunch of guys wearing neon shirts that are working on a road, and they're all hanging out in the same place, eating the same food, enjoying the same environment.
Talking about how much they hate Iowa football.
The Iowa thing cracks me up.
Yeah.
But I mean, it does. I love seeing it. It just makes me, I'm like, this is exactly what I want, is for people to feel comfortable around each other and experience the same space and like eat dinner together, or eat lunch and hang out and commune.
This is a question for my curiosity, selfishly. We've talked about this on my radio show, but you guys are bringing back Sundays at Cunningham's with the NFL experience and providing games for people. Why did that go away, A, and B, why was it such a big deal to bring it back this fall?
Well, so a lot of it had to do with staffing. Mm-hmm. So after we got through 2020, our staff was so depleted that we could not be open for a full day on Sunday, and people were just like, we were using our staff to the max throughout the week. So Sunday, it was just like everybody's already worked all week, and they're just kind of like, we're just throwing this on top of them. So we had done where we were like opening at like 11 o'clock and then closing right after the first round of games.
Sure.
And it was kind of just complicated. And we just, And the cost of the Sunday ticket had gotten to such a point where we're like, we have got so much overhead.
You do know the NFL may owe you money now, right?
Do they?
Because that, yeah. So they just got sued for 4.6 billion with a B dollars that they got to pay back to individuals and bars. So if you guys had
I'm gonna have to look into that.
Sunday ticket during the DirecTV days, they owe you some cash.
I love when people ask me, like they put it in terms of like home viewership. Like,
Yeah.
oh, what is it, like $300 for you to have a bar?
No.
Like add a zero to that, you're
Yeah.
a lot closer.
So, and I think that's what a lot of people don't understand. For a bar or business to run a UFC event or have the Sunday ticket, it's almost 10 times the amount because of A, the amount of TVs you have, but B, you can make revenue off.
That's the thing. When you go somewhere that's hosting a huge event and they're asking you to give them $5, just give them $5 because that ticket, whatever the
You're
pay-per-view-
saving so much money.
That's the thing. You're not paying for it at your house, and they're paying a ton of money for it, an egregious amount of money for
Oh,
it.
and by the way, you don't have to clean up afterwards either.
That's it. And somebody brings you
My favorite part.
somebody brings you your beer, you
Yeah.
know, and you're enjoying their air conditioning and huge TVs. So it's like, but no, I think it got to a level where the Sunday ticket, I'm just doing the math on it. I'm like, we have to hit X amount of sales to even get to zero.
Right.
And then we get to start making our own money. So it's like, what is this really worthwhile?
Is it hard to have that kind of conversation when there are so many different options in Omaha for something like that is, 16 Sundays out of the year? Is that difficult where you're like, okay, we have to balance, like, we have to be a destination for this to work because there are more bars in the city per capita than anywhere else in the world. So we have to be... we have to get X amount of people for it to make sense.
That's the thing. It's kind of like, are we competing with everybody else for a share of a market that that we don't need to compete with?
Good point.
Like, is this? But so we're kind of reevaluating it and looking at it. Like, for one thing, we like football.
Sure, helps.
And I'm like, so like I really. Oh, excuse me.
You had one job.
It's actually a
Alarm.
No, it's somebody I got to meet later. But
I got you.
I have a feeling like it's getting canceled. But
Thanks for calling.
but no, it's one of those conversations. It's like, this is what we like, and I got to tell you, I loved the Sunday crowd that we had.
Sure,
I worked Sundays for the first I don't even know, probably 6 or 7 years, just hanging out with people, watching football,
Sure.
and we had you talk about an eclectic crowd. Like we didn't really have like a set team. We rotate the sound every weekend, so everybody's team.
Yeah.
Like, we even put the Vikings on sound, to appease my friends that love the Vikings. It's like, this is your week, dude.
Skull.
Come on down. We'll have the sound on. And, I still remember the first time I saw some dude with like a vintage Bills jersey in the middle of the crowd. And I was like, how old is that jersey? And he's like, oh, it's 20 years old. I've been a fan. I was like, way to go, dude.
Good for you.
But,
because it'd be tough to be a Bills fan for 20 years.
Oh, that's what you got to give people like that credit, because they're there for the tough times. But that I really miss that crowd. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
So
I know you got to run, so we'll wrap it up here, and we'll just kind of get you out here on this. Is there anything we haven't mentioned about Cunningham's that people should know about you guys?
I don't know. Come and check it out. It's one thing I would say that I would like to get across to Omaha listeners is, I think I would love if everybody in Omaha would pull back and look at all the family-run restaurants that are
still
in
exist
this town. And when you're thinking about going out, those people, we live here, we spend our money here, we own a home here, we pay taxes here. So when you're thinking about going out, seriously consider finding a locally owned business to go spend your money at.
I couldn't agree more.
Those people need it.
That's Derek Richards, the owner and operator of Cunningham's Pub, who joined us here on the Spotlight Omaha podcast today, brought to you by Pixel Fire Marketing inside the Pyramid Contractor Studio. If you want an opportunity to get a free gift card to Cunningham's, go follow my radio show, After Hours. It's at After Hours 1620 on Facebook and Twitter. We'll tweet out a logo of Cunningham's tonight, and if you share it and follow the show and the bar, we may be pulling your name out of a drawing to win a $25 gift card to Cunningham's tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at 11, despite the large audience today. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. We'll be back at 11 tomorrow talking to a new business owner and giving you an interesting look into a unique business here in the city of Omaha on the Spotlight Omaha podcast at 11. See you tomorrow.